My Adventures with Superman returned to Adult Swim this week with a brand new episode, as well as their first two-parter entitled Zero Day. Now, I'm Cape Joel, and this is a video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, while also shouting out any comic book Easter eggs or references I can find. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it, shall we? So then, as we join the episode, we see what became of all those super crooks that Slade and Task Force X have been rounding up all series long. Turns out the General and Amanda Waller have outfitted them with shock collars and plan to use them to repay their debt to polite society by going after Superman. Geez, what are they? Some kind of Suicide Squad? Again, in the comics, Task Force X and the Suicide Squad were always kind of interchangeable names for the same organization. Here in this show, though, they clearly state that Task Force X predates the squad, and that weaponizing super criminals is kind of a new thing for the group, who before this also previously used the Killer OMAC robots. Now back over with Clark, you may have noticed it's been a few episodes since he unlocked one of his iconic comic book superpowers, and this week it seems that he's finally grown into his super hearing, which is wild to me to think that we did the first 6 odd episodes without that power. It's one that I always take for granted when it comes to Superman. Being able to hear so many people in need completely changes the way Clark approaches being Superman. Now he can save people all over the city the second they're in trouble, though eventually the problems start to pile up. For one, he can't turn off these new powers yet, and because Clark is the sort of person who wants to help everyone he can every time, he runs himself ragged for 3 days straight without sleep. And it's not just trying to save too many people that's the issue. Superman can also hear an entire city's worth of conversations and personal problems, and oh man, would that be enough to drive anyone crazy. Too much information, am I right? For Jimmy though, Superman becoming a much more public figure means his Flamebird channel is finally blowing up as people want to know more about their new savior. Hell, Jimmy, with channel numbers like that, if you monetize right, get some good sponsorships, maybe a merch deal, you'll be able to make a living at this YouTube thing full time. At least, that's what I keep telling myself every day. Lois also has a pretty sizable subplot this week as well, when Perry tasks her to assist the planet's brand new guest columnist, Vicki Vale, as in the on-again, off-again love interest of Batman, coming all the way from the Gotham Gazette. Vicki is, of course, Lois's journalism hero, a fact of which was set up much earlier in the show when we saw that Lois had a Vicki poster. Vale is another character who's been given a real Earth 12 twist, and in more ways than one. First off, she has dark hair, where in the comics she's always been shown to be a redhead, or at the very least blonde, in keeping with the Michael Keaton movie. She also wears a shade of purple suit, not unlike the suits that Lois herself will don in the future. I have to wonder if this is kind of Lois adopting the look in reverence to her hero. Design-wise, she's also very tall in this version, towering over both Lois and Jimmy, making her literally larger than life. She also apparently knew Perry when they were going to college, which I thought was a very nice touch. But perhaps the biggest departure from the comic book Vicki Vale is that this Vicki isn't a very nice person. As we learn, she's come here to Metropolis to try and write a hit piece on Superman, who she views as being a threat and a menace. Lois and Jimmy try their best to change her mind by taking her to meet people Superman has already helped, like Flip of the News Kid Legion. They also dust off that gag from a couple episodes ago wherein people and places are named after famous comic creators and artists. We get an Officer Inman as well as a Morrison pawn shop. When Vicki can't get what she wants from Lois and Jimmy's friends, she instead decides to interview the returning Alex, Dr. Ivo's toady, who's more than happy to sing the tune she wants. A lot of people actually jump to the conclusion that this guy, Alex, must be short for Alexander Luthor, and while I assumed he was Alex Alston, giving his closeness to the Parasite Project, here I can totally see what people were going on about. Alex is all too quick to launch into an anti-Superman tirade about him being dangerous and that no one that powerful could possibly ever be that good. It's here too that Lois finally understands the meaning of that old adage, never meet your heroes. As I've mentioned time and time again, one of the major themes in my adventures with Superman is the quest for truth, and if being the #1 journalist like Vicki means manipulating the truth and writing sensationalist, fear-mongering stories, maybe Lois doesn't want to be #1 as bad as she thought. Now back over with Superman, he's using his new super hearing to try and hunt down the mysterious general who's been gunning for him basically since the show began. He doesn't find the general, but he does end up running across the Mist again, the only member of Intergang who managed to escape after the failed bank robbery a couple episodes ago. It's while chasing the invisible Mist, Superman ends up accidentally causing a truck crash, which in turn gets the people of Metropolis to turn against him on a dime, in many cases the very same people that he just saved a minute ago. It's here Clark learns probably one of the harshest lessons about being a superhero, and that means that saving people, being a public figure, being a local celebrity means that you're essentially always going to be living your life under a microscope, and in today's social media age, you are never 100% fully in charge of your own life story, so if you mess up, you better be sure not to mess up publicly. This also leads to a very interesting dilemma for Lois. Knowing what she knows about the evil Superman from other Earths, she starts to fear that if Clark burning the candle at both ends, having the media and now the public turn on him, as well as quite possibly going to war with the General and the US government, could this possibly mean that this Superman might end up falling to the dark side too if he's not careful? Ultimately, the mist tells Superman that he's only been trying to rescue his sister and best friend from Task Force X before they can be moved later that day, and because Superman is such a nice guy, he agrees to help get them back, because hey, it's the right thing to do, and because maybe this is the only way he'll actually be able to get closer to the General. Now I know what you're thinking, this sure smells like a trap, and that's because it totally is. Superman thinks he's saving the super crooks from the government, but all he ends up doing is walking into a full-on squad beatdown. Superman has to do battle with all the villains that he's already defeated, but moreover than that, these bad guys have come packing some upgrades. They can fly with jetpacks now. Also, Banshee seemingly speaks with a slight Irish brogue now, which makes her closer to her comic counterpart, but she didn't have it before, but good for her for getting one. Once again, this big airborne fight scene managed to really impress me. I was instantly reminded of Dragon Ball and other similar anime titles where no one ever seems to touch the ground while fighting. Also, even though he's outnumbered, Superman actually manages to put up one hell of a fight, proving just how far he's come by growing into his brand new amazing powers. Hell, he had the fight basically in the bag until Ivo managed to grab him with the parasite suit again. Ivo might very well have killed him were it not for the General intervening. Whatever he wants with Superman, it seemingly doesn't involve killing him, not yet anyway, just kidnapping him. And it's on that shocking note the first part of this two-parter comes to a close, and so that was 0 Day Part 1, another episode that sought to up the ante for this new Superman series in a great way. It's always fascinating to see Superman struggle and deal with newfound celebrity that comes with being a public hero with godlike powers, who is capable of instilling great fear, great hope, and even great jealousy in all those around him. Also, because this is so early in Superman's career, we all know for a fact that this is only going to get worse as all the different Vicki Vales and Lex Luthors of the world try to seek to make names for themselves off Superman's back. I loved the Easter eggs, I loved the action, and I loved the poetic irony that they're setting up here with Lois, a person who hates secrets more than anyone else in the world, but who is now being forced by circumstance to keep secrets regarding the evil Superman of other Earths and how bad things could get here, meaning that in a weird way she kinda lasted long enough to see herself become her father, and it's twisting her up inside. But that'll just about do it for me in another video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, favorite, check me out on social media so you always know when a new video is about to drop, and I will be back again next week with part 2. So until then, everyone, bye-bye.